Hey everyone, welcome to the second episode of Conversations with Dimi. And I'm very excited about this episode. I wanted to do it for a while, and I'm 100% sure that I found the right person to talk about this topic. But first, before that, I wanted to share with you um, the reason why we are here. So, Conversations with Dimi, the main purpose of it is to really change your habits, so create an atomic habits in your mind so that you can start living your life from a place of love, joy, and prosperity. And every person who is here is an expert in something and can share with you something which is going to help you to create these atomic habits. And I'm really excited for the topic today, which is create the impossible. Um, and the person who is here who is we are together. We know each other for a month. Now we found out actually that we know each other for a little bit longer than that. And definitely today we are gonna create an amazing conversations which are gonna is gonna inspire you guys. So welcome, Jeff. Welcome to Conversations with Dimi. And first, you can just introduce yourself and who you are and yeah, what you're doing.
Yeah, hi, Dimi. Thanks for having me on. And obviously, we know each other a little bit through a program we're participating in, and we found out just a few minutes ago that we actually participated in another program together. Although that program was a lot bigger. Um,
Yeah.
I am a full-time executive coach. I spent
Mm.
30 years in the corporate world. I started out as a practicing attorney. Um, just I was your classic stressed out overachiever, and I slowly kind of learned to manage that in myself and discovered probably 20 years ago now this thing called coaching, and decided that someday I wanted to be a coach. And you can read all this on my website, which is creatingextraordinaryfutures.com. And I decided to take the leap to become a full time executive coach in 2016 after I was
Mm.
kicked out of of the corporate world. Um,
Oh.
and today I work with, for the most part, pretty senior executives, a lot of them in healthcare and financial services. Um, and a lot of my work is helping people take on tasks that look impossible. So I love this topic. The other program that Dimi and I
Yeah.
were in together without knowing it was actually called Creating the Impossible. So this is a topic that is near and dear to both of our hearts, and I'm really looking forward to the conversation.
Oh, thank you, man. Excited about it. Let's dive in. Let's dive in into the topic. So first, let's talk about creation.
Yeah.
Creation, creators, and created. It's a great, I think, great start for this.
Hmm.
And I would like to hear your opinion around this topic. And yeah, I'm gonna share as well what I think about it.
Yeah. We are 100% of the time creating. And so, if you want to take a look at your life, um, whether it's your circumstances, what you think about your circumstances, your um, your experience of life on a day-to-day basis, and what you're thinking about it, you're creating that. Now, a lot of that creation isn't necessarily conscious. A lot of that creation is innocent in some ways. We get into some, um, well, I like to call them rules. Like, we adopt these rules in childhood, and that, like, how we navigate our way in the world based on basically how we get approval from our parents. And then we put them aside and we don't even see them anymore, and they continue to operate on us, and we create by following those rules. And then when we begin to make those rules conscious and recognize we can change them, that's when creation from a different place starts, and it can really become a lot more powerful. So what are you thinking about it, Dimi? What's
That's a
creation
great.
bring up
Thank you
in
for the
you?
question. Yeah, yeah, I absolutely agree with you that we are. I would say even creating machines,
Mm-hmm.
not machines, not exactly the word, but we are a source of creation. Let's say it like
Right.
this. And for me, I had this. several months ago I had this epiphany that all of us, every one of us, we are superheroes of the universe. And I was lying in my bed and I got so excited about it because I said, we are superheroes. I mean, if we just realize that we are
Right.
superheroes, why? Because actually we create whatever we want in life. But just if we realize and we start doing it consciously,
Hmm.
from a place of awareness, from a place of love, then wow, how many things we can, you can create actually everything in life. And um, I think what we learn, most of us learn in our childhood, is to create safety, maybe, and
Yeah. Yeah.
security.
Yeah. Staying small, but
Yeah,
small
staying
is safe.
small.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's that, and our parents, the people around us, they're not to blame about it. It's just that's what they know. They
Right.
knew about it,
Right.
but I didn't know that you can really go to the next level with that, with the creation. So yeah, we learn to be secure and small,
Hmm.
and it's all right. Maybe it was serving us for a while, but then we can really transcend that and really create everything which our mind wants, and from a place of love. So that's how I see it,
Yeah.
Jeff. If you want to add something
Yeah.
to that.
Well, I love I mean, the idea of we're all superheroes. I think I know I get pulled into superhero movies. I love them. I watch them with my son.
Yeah.
One of my favorite movies, probably my favorite movie of all time, is The Matrix. You know,
Hmm.
this idea of what's real, what's not, what do we have this capacity to do? I think the reason it resonates with us so strongly is because deep down we know we are, but it's so easy to like enjoy it on screen and think, well, that's for Captain America to do. I'm not Captain America, right?
Uh-huh.
Or the
Yeah.
Hulk, or who, pick your favorite superhero. Um,
Yeah.
and that, like, just seeing that power that we all have, that we're all using 24/7, it's just how are we using it? That to me is the ticket in.
Yeah, and we are the superheroes and we can create stuff, and then we need to accept that,
Hmm.
accept it deeply in order to start doing the greatest things we can do in our life. And you know let's talk about the impossible, because there is this belief in the world that there are stuff we can create, they're possible, something is impossible, and there is this debate that some people say everything is possible, some other people say something else. So what's your opinion around this question?
Well, there seems to be a physical world that has rules.
Hmm.
So there are things that seem to be impossible, at least with our current understanding, within the physical constraints that we have. But if you're talking more about from the psychological, from the mental, um, I don't know if there's a line, but I've never come close to it, if there is one.
Mm.
Like when you think about, I mean, I come from the corporate world. Like everything in the corporate world is 100% made up, right? I mean,
Yeah.
budgets and financial planning and strategy, it's all just thinking. So if something's made of thought, you can change it.
Yeah, and actually almost everything is made of thought, and or maybe
that, that
everything,
we
we
that
don't
we as
know.
humans really deal
Yeah.
with regularly. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to be an NBA basketball player. It doesn't particularly bother me, but because in the physical world, I just don't meet the requirements.
Yeah.
But set that aside, and who knows what's possible.
Yeah, and that's a great way to say it. Who knows what is possible and why? And every time when you decide that something is impossible, we need to slow down and actually ask ourselves, why do we think like
Right,
this? Where is this coming from, right?
right. You know what my favorite thing to hear from a potential coaching client is, I could never do that,
I love it.
right? Because I love exploring that with someone because it's normally it's something they would really like to do, and for whatever reason they have like um, they've written it off. Like that's too unrealistic. That's too, it's not consistent with who I am, whatever. And almost all of the time there's something in there that's really an interesting draw for that person. And there's
Mhm.
all kinds of like mental constructions that they've made up that can be let go of. And when those do fall away,
Yeah.
they can totally do that.
And it's like a miracle, right? It's like you
Yeah.
just freeze yourself. You
It
just
looks like a
freeze yourself.
miracle. I've got a client, it's funny because we work with a lot of the Michael Neal creating the impossible kind of ideas,
Mm.
and he looked at me one conversation, and we had talked about thought and kind of the role of thought and like our reality is made of thought, and he looked at me at one point, and he'd been going on and on about this particular struggle in his business and how much he was up at night thinking about it and all this stuff. And he looked at me and he just started laughing. He's like, "Oh, I'm making that up, aren't I?" Like, yeah.
Wow.
And so when he began to see like how much time he was spending making up stuff to be scared of or to overcome, or his life totally shifted.
I love these insights, man. I mean, when someone just, and me as well. I mean, when you just see like a new world, when you just, when you allow to
Hmm.
let go of this stuff, these constraints we have,
Yeah.
and and just one of the things which I believe about is it's I haven't seen anything which is impossible. I
Hmm.
haven't achieved everything,
Right.
that's for sure.
Right.
But I haven't seen and I haven't seen anything which I particularly was really committed to achieve and gave everything which I had, and I was open to let go of stuff, of course, and beliefs and other stuff around it, and
Yeah.
haven't achieved it.
Yeah.
There is nothing
Not that I can
there.
tell. I mean, like I said, there may be a line somewhere, but I haven't found it yet. I don't think I've even come close to it.
Tell me, you haven't come close to it, but can you share with the audience, with people, because there is this idea that we have always this models and ideas which are stopping us from time to time to go to the next level.
Hmm.
Can you recall in your life what were these lines and or models or places you let go so that you could go to the next level? Some of them, maybe.
The first thing that comes to mind, and I think this is kind of where you're going, Demi. So
Um,
steer me if I'm not. When I So in 2016, I had been talking about going out on my own as a coach for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. And I had this 2 year plan that kept getting pushed out. In 2 more years, I'll be in a position where I can do this. In 2 more years, blah, blah, blah. And then, I got laid off. I got restructured. I was given a severance package. I had some, money saved. And it was kind of like the universe was saying, "Hey, so you've been talking about doing this coaching thing. Here's everything you need. Are you going to do it?" And my immediate response was like, "Nope." And I realized what was getting, kind of in retrospect, what got in my way at the time was, um, I didn't believe I could make a full-time living as a coach.
mhm,
And so I kept looking for things to do to like supplement my income while I was learning to be a coach. And
mhm,
interestingly enough, um, I was having lots of coaching conversations. People were interested in talking about coaching. It was like an engaging thing for me and for them. It wasn't turning into clients yet, but it was turning in, it was good conversation. Everything else that I was doing to like supplement things um, went nowhere. And so it was like, oh, I guess not only can I make a full-time living as a coach, I have to, because nothing else, like it was like the universe closed all the doors but this one and said, this is the one you're going to go through and you're going to figure this out.
wow,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. And I
That's
resist, like I said, I resisted. I resisted.
of course you resisted your mind. I mean, I wouldn't say I don't want to identify, especially when I talk about this myself, but it's just our small mind resists everything which is new,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
when we say our small
I
mind
wanted to
is,
stay small and safe. I was a consultant who knew certain things. I could make a living talking to people about those things. Yeah.
yeah, and then and then we know that, as you said, the small mind is actually the mind which helped us to survive until
Hmm.
this moment,
Hmm.
and we want to. The biggest problem is that people identify themselves with this mind too much,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we believe that this is our, our only thing we can rely on, and
Hmm.
we, because we relied on it so many years so far, and
Right.
apparently we survived with it.
Right.
And
Well, it's really
I just
good
want,
at keeping us
yeah,
alive.
yeah, and
Um,
okay.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's so much of our evolutionary makeup is around avoiding getting killed. Because that's how we survived to reproduce. The ones who didn't get killed survived to reproduce. So it's like whether it's, getting kicked out of the tribe or getting kind of off on the edges of the herd where you're going to get picked off by the mountain lion, whatever. It's like we learned to like look for danger.
And that was good.
Yeah.
That was really good at that point,
Yeah.
right?
Until we started
People,
making up a lot of things that weren't actually dangerous.
because it's in this way we were just leading towards the more secure place. Okay,
Hmm.
everything which is, I'm not 100% that is safe is dangerous,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, but then we say, okay, nowadays, guys, the thing is that it's so counterintuitive the way we are gonna get prosperous nowadays than the way we got secured before, and it's
Hmm.
just the opposite of that. So before, of course, it was okay because the people who are too curious, who
Yeah.
wanted to explore too much, they died.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now, exactly these people succeed.
Yeah. Now they start Uber.
Yes,
Right.
exactly. That's a great way to say it. They start Uber or
Yeah.
Airbnb.
Yeah.
And I have this favorite saying. It's from Bulgarian philosopher, and he just says that if there is a big pond in front of you and you want to go through it,
Hmm.
you start and the car will come.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Well,
this
there's
is
another
this,
like another
yeah,
saying that's like Eastern philosophies and leap and the net will appear.
yeah,
I think that's the
yeah,
same kind of
exactly.
idea, right? That if you make the move, the universe has your back. And what we
Eh,
want is we want to, and I've talked with so many people who's like, well, I would do this if I knew it would work out, right?
yes.
And that's not the way it works.
It was, I think it was Prison Break, the TV series. I just want to share that before we go ahead. It's, I don't know who was, I think it's the main actor, the man who was saying that, but he was escaping from the prison something, and they
Hmm.
asked him, but how did you know
Hmm.
that the guards will be exactly here and you're gonna go 1 second before them? And he was saying, I know it's 80-90% of the things, the other 10-20 are just fate, just
Right.
leap of faith.
Right.
And I think
Yeah.
that's the thing. There are always 10, 20, maybe 30% which are leap of faith.
Yeah. My own experience is it seems to be even more than that, more than 10 or 20%.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. But who knows, right? I mean, we're kind of making that up, right?
yeah. It's
I mean,
it's always,
yeah. Yeah. To me, it's like all I know is I am drawn to go in a particular direction. I don't necessarily know why. And then I just trust that if I go in that direction, it'll become obvious what the next thing is, and then I'll do that, and so on and so on and so on.
yeah. And I think the biggest learning for me here, Jeff, is that this feeling inside of I if I just knew this and that, and then I'm gonna go. We need to reverse that, right?
Hmm.
That's the way we go towards it. It's just I want to do it. I know it's gonna happen. I don't know
Yeah.
how,
Yeah.
but I'm ready to go.
Right. Right. Well, yeah, and like the flip side of that is there is this illusion of safety that shows up. So, I need a regular job with a regular paycheck with benefits and whatever. And if I have that, I'm safe. And on August 1st, 2016, that was me. And on August 2nd, 2016, I lost all of it. And so it's like you don't know. You don't know what's going to happen. You can think you're going the safe route. And this is the thing that kind of makes me sad because so many people stick with what they think is safe and are
Mm-hmm.
willing to make themselves smaller or appear in a certain way or act in a certain way or not say certain things to keep that safety. And they don't see that the most safe thing that you can be in the world is yourself, because then the right opportunities are going to find you and you're going to find the right opportunities, and there's just so much fulfillment in that. And I personally think it's less risky, like as
Yes.
a whether you're a coach or a consultant or someone who's kind of on their own, and you have maybe you have 5 clients, maybe you have 10, maybe you have 15 on any given day. On a really bad day, maybe 2 of those clients fire you, and you still have 90% of your business. You can't lose it all with one. For me, it was a Zoom conference call. I regret to
Wow.
inform you that you no longer have a job here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Wow. It's like you have a one client. This is the job. You have one client. And
Right.
when you are working for someone, you have one goal, and it's like a one client. If this person says or this organization says, "I just don't want you more. You're not working here." That's it.
Yeah. 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 It's like I was in the financial services world, and it's all about diversification, right? And having one job is the exact opposite of diversification.
Exactly. So tell
It's
me, tell me more about
Yeah,
this.
go ahead.
How the coaching, how to be, because I think that's a great topic here because a lot of people who are listening that I'm sure that they are thinking about or they are part of the self-employed world, like
Hmm.
entrepreneurship, or they want to do something themselves. What makes that more safe and secure than having a safe job? Safe in quotes. I mean, just reverse. Let's reverse that.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely the multiple people paying you aspect of it. And so if you're like in a true startup world where you're going after funding and investors and all that, I mean, you have thrown all your eggs in one basket, and I would say that has a level of risk. And the risk is it's one idea. The um the thing that feels less risky to me is um, if you are either starting something or you are joining a startup. um, there's typically this level of like passion and purpose that comes through that you're going to do a better job for that than you would
Mm-hmm.
be at some other employer. and
Yes.
and from that perspective, whether or not the startup succeeds or fails is kind of irrelevant on a long time frame, right? Because you're going to learn so much about yourself and what you're good at doing that you're going to be able to bring that to the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one, as opposed to uh, I'm in this box on the organizational chart and I can't really go outside of that box. um, and it's kind of soul crushing and dead, but it feels safe, but you don't really feel alive.
You're not.
um, That's the box I want to break people out of.
Yeah, definitely
That's the
that
thing
feels
that
good.
feels impossible, right? I could never leave my corporate job. Like that's where my safety and security is.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not that great a job and, whatever, but
but I'm
um,
safe here. I have
yeah.
family, I have children, and of course that makes sense. But again, so is it like we have boxes like it is like my relationship, my career,
Hmm.
my friends, all of this is my safe place, and I don't want to leave it, even though I'm not happy there.
Yeah,
Because if I go out of it, what is there? But what if what is there is actually what you want?
right.
What if what is there is going to help you to express yourself in the way you want to express yourself?
Yeah.
What if there, all the money, all the dreams, all the houses, all everything you want there, but just what you want to do is to decide to transcend this place you are right now.
Hmm.
And now it feels that you are stuck. Why? Because you haven't been there and you are stuck with your fears of if I go out, I cannot handle it.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's almost I think there's this initial step. And so some people do this by they create some kind of, the word used to be side hustle, right? They do something on the side, they
Yeah.
experiment, they kind of get a sense of like, well, could this work for me? Could I get clients doing this? Could I explore this? And so it's almost this experiment of if I go outside my comfort zone, will it work? Will, you know, how do I experiment with various levels of discomfort and what I can tolerate?
Yeah.
And then over time, um, what I discovered is uh, not only was I kind of comfortable with that discomfort, if that makes sense,
It makes
but
sense. Yeah.
I wanted to keep exploring that edge because all kinds of really cool things were happening on that edge.
Yeah, that's definitely what it is, and for me, this change of the mindset, like making this change, be a shift in the mindset, is gonna help people to really go there because they're gonna see that the long term results and the long term benefits are way more than just staying in their comfort zone. But let's talk about some impossible stories, man. I mean, I don't know if you recall some. Let's talk about that. I'm really curious. I'm sure that people want to hear that. Do you have something in mind? Some impossible story you can recall, yours or maybe someone else's?
Well, I'm thinking about one of my first coaching clients who um, was in a more kind of conventional job. And one of the first times we talked, um, we weren't even really talking about coaching yet. I was just kind of getting a sense of where she was and all this stuff. And she she had written this story for herself that I am making as much money as I can possibly make at any job. Uh, I don't like my job, but if I can just make it 10 more years, then I can quit my job and do what I want.
Wow.
And what I said to her was, what if you could leave your job, make more money doing something that you liked a lot
Yeah.
more aligned to your purpose, more aligned, just felt better. Like what if you could do that? And that hadn't even occurred to her as a possibility. And so there was something about when she saw that as something that was actually possible, she had another job in 10 months. And it was all those things.
Wow.
More not only more base pay, but it was with a startup and she got equity on top of that. And so when the company went public 3 years later, she had this uh, nice nest egg that happened. She was way more engaged in that. And like it of course it wasn't impossible, it happened, but it looked impossible to her at the beginning, and it was only when her her perspective of what was possible changed. And when her perspective of what was possible changed, she was suddenly able to effortlessly create this thing that she had thought was impossible.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
So this is exactly the story. I'm gonna give you two, three stories from my life, and just because I got excited about it. So the first one was, I remember I always believed. I mean, that honestly everything is possible if you want it. I mean, this is my quote for life, and I'm
Hmm.
gonna keep going with that. So I was when I was finishing my education, my bachelor. I was not studying a lot. I mean, I was going around having fun in my bachelor and stuff. And then no one was thinking that I can do something about it. Create some job and opportunities and stuff, because it was like this guy, he's just having a lot of fun, but that's it. And then I'm going to the last year to. It was actually in US. I was in this brigade, like work and travel in US from a Bulgarian company. Um, it happened to meet a person who decides to open this kind of company in Bulgaria.
Hmm. Hmm.
And we got friends and became friends and stuff. He came back, he opened it, but then we had 1 2 years we haven't seen each other, and then I decided I want to start working something in Bulgaria. I just decided that, okay, I'm gonna do
Hmm.
it. And I'm going there and talk to the guy and say, I want to start working. He said, I cannot pay you anything, but give you that you can be in the office and as many people you sign up. It's a new office, no one knows it. But yeah. So what I did is I started working without any payment for in this job, and then this office. I got so excited. I was very excited about the job, and I signed up more people to all the other offices together. I almost
Wow.
not something like this. It was like maybe a small difference, but something like this.
Hmm.
And and he got really excited about this, and then 6 months later he decides to promote me as a sales manager and something like chief operation officer in the company grew, became nine different towns in Bulgaria. And he's saying to me, man, if you just continue working for me, you can become a CEO of the company. I was 23 years old at the time.
Wow.
And at this time, man, people who were my age, they couldn't find a job. Not
Yeah.
to mention to go on and create something with that. And people who are studying like crazy, people who are like, really focused on their career and how they're gonna make it happen all these 4 years in their bachelor. And someone who didn't give a shit for anything like this, he just finished education and creates that. And
Yeah.
everyone was like, what happened there?
Uh-huh.
And I think 100% the reason for that, I put in this belief that when you decide something, you can create everything.
Yeah.
No matter what people think, nothing. You just do
Right.
and go and do it.
Right. Yeah, there's something about that creative energy that when you focus and you put it in a particular direction. And I do think, to pick up on some of your words, I think the fact that you didn't give a shit really helped, because it makes it's so much cleaner. Like when we can just like do stuff and say, yeah, if it works out, great. If it doesn't work out, I'll figure out the next thing, right? Which
Yes.
is always true, which is what we always do. But we create so much resistance in ourselves that turns into pressure. It's like, oh, I've got to do this right, or this will happen, or what if I mess up? And no, there's no, I don't think there's a, I don't, that's one thing that I don't think actually exists, like messing up, failure.
Oh,
No, it's
you
just like,
mess up all
hey, I
your
did something
expectations.
and I learned something, and now I'm going to do something else. I'll learn something from that, and so on and so on and so on.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely the you're connected to what you want. You are committed to it, and as I said, yes, you said my words like that. You don't give so much. You don't get so serious about it.
Yeah.
Too serious about it. You just play with it. You just play a game with it.
Yeah, and I hope you don't mind, because I know a little bit of that story from conversations you and I have had, Dimi.
Yeah.
The thing that I love most about that story isn't
Yeah.
what you just shared. It's
Okay.
that you knew enough about yourself
Yeah.
that when he offered that to you, you said no.
Yes. I said no. I
Yeah.
said no. Do you know why? Because you know why. I mean, I told you because that was not me,
Yeah.
and I was okay with that.
Right.
I was
Right.
okay with that, and then actually, the next thing which happened there, I decided to go to to study English. I haven't studied English before, and I got the exam. I prepared myself for it. No one, again, the people who are like teachers said, "Oh, that's not possible. You cannot do that. I cannot
Mhm.
help you because you don't have the level of language." I said, okay. So I said, I just said to the teacher, "Give me the materials. I'm gonna prepare myself. If you don't want to prepare me, I'm gonna get the exam."
Mhm.
That's it.
Mhm.
And again, it's the same mindset, and it's just okay. You don't believe in me, but I believe in myself. I can make it happen.
Right. Right.
and and I think this thing, as you said, is very important. And it's just it is important to have this trust
Right.
that not only in yourself, but it's again in yourself, but in the universe, that you just take the first step and universe has your back, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I in 2016, I mean, I had just seen this small town in Colorado where I now live. I had seen it like July 4th weekend of 2016, and had visited. And I remember my wife saying, she had been coming to this town for a few years and really had kind of fallen in love with it. It's 7,000 people. It's kind of nestled in the shadow of this beautiful mountain, Mount Sopris. And um, she asked, could you see yourself living here someday? And I said, well, yeah, I could see myself living here someday, but as long as I'm at this particular company, I'm in Boston every other week. This place is 3 hours from a major airport. There's just no way it could happen. And then a month later, that company laid me off. And
Wow.
and that was like it was just the series of coincidences that happened over the next year to make everything fall into place. And then the strange thing was, so I had this idea that I wanted to be a coach. I didn't really have many examples of people who made a full-time living coaching. That whole saying about burning the bridges,
Mm-hmm.
or burning the ships, right? Burning the
Yeah.
ships.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't burn any bridges, thankfully, but I burned a lot of ships
Mm-hmm.
because I moved from Washington, D.C., where there are all these big employers that I could have potentially interviewed with and found another job and all that. Moved across the country to Carbondale, Colorado, a town of 7,000, no major employers here. The only plan that I had was I'll become a coach. And there was something about having no other option. I think many people would have told me, what are you doing? Do you know what the odds are of you actually making that work? But I just believed I could make it work. And
And you did.
it took a little longer than I thought it would. Um, but it's worked. And so that's another impossible story. And it's more
It
like
is.
it
It is,
didn't,
man.
on the inside, it didn't feel impossible at all. But, outside looking in, there were definitely some moments where, I mean, I remember some kind of difficult conversations I had with my wife, like, at what point do you give up on this?
Mm.
And that's a hard one.
It is hard one, especially when is coming, from your wife.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was having this same kind of conversation with myself, but I didn't,
Yeah.
it's like, I still think I can make this work.
And what helped you to still think about this? That you can make it work.
Well, I'm trying to think of my different years. So the first, I was like 3 years in, I finally made enough money that I thought, yeah, I can make this work.
Mm.
That was 2019.
Mm.
So beginning of 2020, I had a couple renewals, was feeling pretty good. COVID
Mm,
hits.
mm,
And for the next 4 months, I had a lot of conversations with people, but nobody hired me because everyone just panicked at the beginning of COVID,
yeah.
right? The world was ending. We didn't know what was going on. But then around September of 2020, um, people started hiring me, and it made me realize, that one of the things you said about you just don't know what's going to happen, right? You just kind of go in a direction and see what happens. And so by the end of 2020, I had made 50% more than I did the year before.
Wow.
And I thought, well, if I can do that in a pandemic, I can definitely make this work. And then there were some things that happened because I had enough income from the business to like
Mm,
refinance my mortgage into, I mean, that looks like the most brilliant thing ever right now, to like refinance my mortgage into a 3% fixed 30-year mortgage that, no one can ever take away from me. I mean, that
mm,
just, there were just some things, some really practical things that just made everything feel a lot more stable and a lot more doable and a lot more supportable than at the
mm.
beginning, where I really was just kind of out on a limb trying to make stuff work.
Yeah, and actually, me and you, we are two people who come from different places, but both of us could stay resiliently through these hardships because we've been. You said 30 years in
Yeah.
corporate, and I
Yeah.
haven't been in corporate. My company, I wouldn't say it corporate, and for me, was I was doing my life. I was this person who was always believing that I can do it myself and I can make it happen, and I don't need to be somewhere. It was hard for me. It was hard for you in different way, but both of us kept going,
Right. Well, and
no matter what
you're
it
a
was.
lot faster learner than I than I was, Dimi, because I kind of it was this both and for me for a lot. Like I was willing to take certain risks, and I was always in roles that were, like kind of on the what's next and how do we help our clients, predict the future. And so there was this aspect of me, but there was also like this safe corporate shell that I built around me. Um, yeah, and it took a while for me to. I mean, I never voluntarily stepped out on my own. There was a moment where I like knew it was the right decision, but that
Hmm.
was because the choice was either go out on my own or go back into that. If
Yeah.
like I never just voluntarily left that.
Yeah, but you made a choice again. I mean, you
Right.
could come back, you could decide to continue, but you took it as okay. Now I have a choice. Maybe it
Yeah.
was the choice which was forced by the company or something, but you made a choice to keep to going in your direction. You took it as a sign from the universe so that you can make it happen.
Right.
Just the last part here, we were talking that we can talk about a little bit more practical
Mm.
stuff. I mean,
Mhm.
let's talk about practical stuff because everyone would okay, we talk, it's good, it's possible, but what are some practicalities we can give people that okay, let's start creating the impossible? Do you have something in mind?
I think there is this. I think there's this myth that you need to know how to do something. Like there's always this idea. I mean, I'll talk to clients about um, I'll make up a topic, networking.
Mm-hmm.
You know, reaching out to people, seeing what's available in a different field that you might be interested in, et cetera, et cetera. And they say, well, that sounds great, but how do I do that? And it feels so pedantic to say, well, you pick up the phone and you dial it, and like, there's how to. I find how to is generally just an excuse that's covering up some fear. Like people can
Mm.
figure out how to. I mean, we've got Google, we've got YouTube. You can figure out how to do anything.
Wow.
It's the question is,
Mm,
do you want to enough to
mm,
step into that discomfort? And for most people, there's a certain point in their life where they stop doing uncomfortable things. They have
mhm,
their job, they have their career, they show up, they go to the same place, they show up at the same meetings, they do the same thing, and it's really comfortable.
mm,
And the more comfortable you are, the more uncomfortable it is to be uncomfortable, right? Where if
mm.
instead, and maybe this is a little more practical advice, is just to experiment with being and surviving discomfort. What's
Mm.
one uncomfortable phone call you could make this week? What's one uncomfortable email you could send this week? What happens when you do it? One of the things that I discovered initially as a coach is I'd get this tightness in my stomach around, like, oh, I'd really like to tell Dimi this, but what will he think of me if I say it? And then I started experimenting with saying it. And the experience that I had, Dimi, was, I don't know, it probably wasn't 100% of the time, but 95% of the time, the person would say something like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you said that." Or, "Oh my
Wow.
gosh, thank you for pointing that
Wow.
out to me." Or, "I hadn't thought about that, but you're exactly right." And so I began to like look for that little tightness in my stomach. I'd get excited about feeling it because it's like,
Mhm.
oh, this is some good stuff I'm on to. So it completely flipped how I felt about it.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's an experiment that anybody can do. And
Yes.
it you know depends on how you apply it. There's no specificity there other than this general direction toward more discomfort, and what shows up for you when you do that.
Definitely, man. I mean, definitely, my suggestion is the same. Like, first of all, uh, ask. I think it was. I don't remember the question, but there was in my community this impossibility question. I don't remember what was the question, but let's say that the question might be, I mean, if everything was
Yeah.
possible in life, what would you,
Right.
what would you approach in life? So that's
Right.
it. And then from that point, from the, from the space of everything is possible, and you just approach something which you really believe that you want,
Right. Right.
and you're open to go through the discomfort to
Right.
get it,
Right. Right.
there is no doubt that you can get it.
Well, one of the
It's as
things that I
simple as
loved
that.
about that program, and about his perspective, was that, most of us think about what I want next is something really similar to what I currently have, only like 10% more.
Mm,
And that's his perspective, and this has been true in my own life. It's it's oftentimes easier to create something that looks really unreasonable, just because it requires, like, if I'm creating 10% more of what I already have, I'm just doing 10% more of the things I've already done.
mm-hmm,
I'm kind of stuck in my current operating system.
mm,
If I have to do something that I have no idea how to do, I suddenly have to, like, I have to show up as a different person to do that.
yeah.
And sometimes that's easier.
It is, and also it's more enjoyable. It's
Yeah.
more. It's like an adventure.
Yeah.
Like you
Mhm.
go on an adventure. It's not like, oh, this, but a little bit more. You're gonna do the same. You're gonna have the same life. But if you have something you want to really aspire to, and you go
Yeah.
to this adventure, that's amazing. Thank you, man. So
Yeah.
just before we go, two things. First of all, where people can contact you if they want coaching, if they want just to talk to you and they want to know more about you. Where is this
Yeah.
place?
Yeah. Well, I spend a lot of time connecting with people on LinkedIn. I do a lot of writing on LinkedIn. So if
Okay,
you're on LinkedIn, reach out and connect with me.
I'll
If
do
you
that.
want to send an email to me directly, it's jeff@jmunn.com. The website you can get to either
Yeah,
through creatingextraordinaryfutures.com or jmunn.com.
perfect.
Um, yeah, those are the best ways to reach out to me. And
Cool.
I am in the process of putting together a group of people who are looking at, I call it creating what's next. So it's that, that creating word, right? Of like, how do I step beyond these things that have been kind of keeping me small and safe, and how do I do it with a group of people where we can all support each other? So I'm really excited about that.
So exciting, man. And
Yeah,
the last thing you want to share with people, just one sentence maybe, or whatever you feel like, just to leave them with.
you can do it.
I love it, man.
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah,
Well, thank you, man. I just wanted to acknowledge you for the time and the wisdom you shared with me and with the people who are gonna listen to that. And yeah, uh, that's not going to be the last time we are doing something together. I'm sure about this. So
yeah. Me
let's
too.
keep rolling and
Yeah,
helping the people to really start living their dreams.
yeah. Thank you, Dimi. I really
Thank you, man.
enjoyed the conversation and looking forward to the next time.
Thank you.
All
Bye.
right, take care.